When this is happening, oh, Paul, your prices are so high. When this is happening, I don't hear anything about it.
Labor's expensive.
Labor is really expensive. But it's not going to matter in 30 years. So you never know. All right, guys, home pricing and home update. So prices are up 0.2% year over year, but is the lowest growth rate on home prices since 2012. And I'm going to say, I want everybody to go back and look at my video. I'm not trying to say, I always said that inflation will help home prices. Inflation will absolutely help home prices. Now, even though the pace is up over the year, look what's happened to interest rates.
Yeah.
Interest rates have gone from 2.625 on the low side for a 30-year mortgage, and we're pretty close to 7% right now. But with inflation being up, the cost of a new home being higher, it makes homes that already exist more attractive.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, Mo?
Yep.
That's the issue that we have. If you had told me there'd be no inflation and interest rates went from 2.5% to 7%, of course prices are going to fall. And in some parts of the country, prices did fall a lot on the West Coast. Mm-hmm. In the east of the Mississippi, it seemed like everything, or east of the Rockies, it seemed like everything kept going up. Yeah. Even in Northeast Ohio here, there are still stories about homes having 20 people waiting in line to buy them, full price offers, over ask, et cetera, even in the last few months. Yep. That's incredible.
Yeah, it really is. And here, the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate right now is 6.82%.
6.82%.
And people are still jumping on buying homes around us.
Listen, you still have to, there's still a short supply.
Yes, there is.
But you have to admit that you can't ignore the fact that interest rates have definitely affected people's purchasing.
No doubt.
Right?
No doubt.
Absolutely. And that's always going to happen. It's the cost of money. Interest rate's the cost of money, right? If you want to borrow money, you got to pay somebody for that. And the higher that cost, the less money you're going to borrow. However, as inflation surges and costs go up to build a new home, and hopefully your income will follow suit with that, you have more discretionary income then to go buy that house.
Right. Right.
Even though the cost is higher.
Going back to the supply thing, you'll find this interesting. So on average, down in Naples, there's about 6,000 homes on the market at one time. Right now, there's about 3,000. It was a low. Guess what the low was, if you can just pick a number.
2,000.
596.
Wow.
That was the low. Isn't that crazy? So now it's still half, but there's a long way to go before supply gets back to normal level. So these people can charge more for their homes.
Yeah, supply, remember guys, we always say this, supply and demand. I've always talked about this in everything we talk, in everything we do. When people say, go to a growing market, the demand is huge. Yeah, but there's also 80 times more developers out there building more and more houses. So the supply stays the same, or it surpasses it. Look at the housing crash we had in 08 and 07, 06. A large part of that was oversupply. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden you had all these homes sitting there empty. And by the way, home sales contracts did slump unexpectedly in March by 5.2%, the contracts for them. Yeah. That's a big drop. But again, prices going up. So who's the loser on that one? Well, you say the buyer is, maybe, but their income's hopefully going to go up because inflation was up. Right. So all these things work together. And at first I thought I was going to be wrong. And I'm still wrong on that one I wasn't thoroughly convinced we were going to have a housing crash. And everybody kept saying, Paul, I'm going to wait for a housing crash. I'm like, don't wait for a housing crash. If you're going to have a home for a very, very long period of time, don't wait for a housing crash. Don't wait. First off, crashes on a national level have only happened one time in history. One time. Have there been pockets of crashes? Yeah, absolutely. Like, Houston in the late 80s or something like that. You had crashes, et cetera. LA had it in the 80s. But overall for the country, it's very, very hard to have a crash. Yeah. I just sit there and say, listen, if you need a home, you need to buy one, buy what you can afford. Okay? If you're going to be in there for a long time, yes, you might pay more than you'd like to pay, but it's not going to matter in 30 years. Right. And if in the next year your home decreases 30 or 40% in value, you're going to be there for a very long time. Yeah. Does it look bad when you look at Zillow and the Zestimate? Yeah, probably, but doesn't really affect you. I'm really happy to see that housing prices are still staying stable or going up. Just going, okay, that's pretty awesome to see. I mean, guys, I'm renovating a house right now, and I can't believe some of these prices I see. I just can't believe it. I'm like, how is this even possible? If I literally just built 5 years ago, I think it'd have been half. If I'd renovated 5 years ago, I think it'd have been half from 5 years. I believe it. But look at lumber prices. Now, here's the interesting thing about lumber prices. Have you looked at lumber prices lately, Mo? No, just in the video that we did previously. Yeah. And it has plummeted from the highs. It absolutely has plummeted. Look at this. That. My God. Going back to 2013, it is pretty much at its average price, or is that the current price? That's probably the current price. But yeah, you had a huge surge, collapse. And by the way, all the contracts I talked to now, when this is happening, oh, Paul, your prices are so high. When this is happening, I don't hear anything about it. Thank you, contractors. And one of my contractor listens to our show, so I'm not picking on you because I know he's different. I buy the supplies myself, so I don't have to worry. It is what it is. Like I don't have to sit there and he's not sitting there going, oh, it's just labor I have to worry about. And by the way, what's going on with labor?
Labor's expensive.
Labor is really expensive. And when you have high costs to build with high labor and high materials, if a house right next door to you is brand spanking new and it's exactly your house and it's $400,000 and your house you paid $200,000, do you think your house is really a $200,000 house anymore? Yeah, you're going to have a premium for having a brand new house. But this thing's going to be all day long, $350, $360.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the point of housing. But the other great thing about housing is you don't have Mr. Market every day telling you what your house is worth.
With your ticker symbol right on top of you.
You don't have that. Yeah. You don't have a big neon sign above your house telling you every day how much. Yeah, there's Zillow. But at the end of the day, it takes time to sell your house.
Right.
So if you really want to sell it, that's when you sell it. That's it.
Yep.
So, housing prices, please don't wait for a crash. I'm not saying there won't be a crash. If a recession happens suddenly and it's bigger than we think, there'll probably be a decrease in home prices because that's going to be driven by consumers.
Munger, he said that there's going to be trouble in the commercial market.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Munger came out recently, talked about he sees all these banks making bad loans on commercial real estate. Now, guys, we're in the commercial business. We bought a lot of apartment buildings. And 3-4 years ago, after COVID, we would literally be laughed out of an offer, laughed at. And now we're somewhat competing. And I always thought to myself, now here's the benefit though. People would say, well, when these loans come due, they're going to be insane to cover. Well, but our rents have gone up a ton because of inflation. Because of home sales being lower, people can now, and it's harder to justify buying a home when your mortgage goes from $1,400 to $2,500 for the exact same home because of just interest rates. They're more likely to rent a longer period of time. We've seen a higher increase in our rentals, on our rental rates. However, we're starting to now see the decrease in rental rates. I don't know how. Might be supply. Wow. I've been seeing a lot. There's something like 2.5 million units coming on board in the this year. Again, guys, supply and demand. Don't focus on just supply. Don't focus on just demand. They work together. And that's the thing you need to understand when it comes to home. Don't wait for a crash. Don't wait for anything. If you see a good deal, if you need to move, if you don't feel comfortable, rent. Renting's okay.
Yeah, that's one thing. I have family members that are like, renting's throwing your money away. I'm just like, all right.
If that's the case, great. So if I can rent a house for $2,000 and own it would cost me $10,000 a month. Oh. This is not throwing it away and this is throwing it away.
Not building equity.
You know what it's like?
That's always the argument.
You know what I hear? You're making your landlord rich. That's when people say like, oh, I want to start my own business because I'm sick of making my boss rich. I'm like, you're saving. I don't get this. Don't be a victim, people.
Yeah.
Victim mentality doesn't work. So guys, when it comes to housing, we're going to keep reporting on it because we love it. We're in the business of it, but don't wait for crashes. Just find good values and stick with it. With housing, it's easier because if you need to move, you need to move. If you can hold off a little bit, do it. I'm not saying it'll be a better time to buy. I don't know when there'll be a better time to buy.
Who knows? This might be the best time to buy. Who knows?
I was going to go back I told my brother recently, he's like, what regret do you have in real estate? I'm like, I wish I could go back to 2017 and say, buy everything you can find because rates were higher. Yes, it seemed like I was paying too much, but now with how much rents have gone up, they'd have been no-brainer deals and it made me great returns.
Right.
So you never know. All right, guys, thanks very much. I appreciate your time. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. You'll be very glad you did.